Greetings, brothers. Today we're covering the Death Company. We're looking at the characters, the stratagems and the units. I've done about 5 hours of Mathhammer in here, so stick around, you're definitely going to learn something. Right, so as mentioned, we're going to look at just about everything about the Death Company, the new 9th edition rules. So we're going to cover the Lost, the new Death Visions, Captains and Lieutenants, Troops, Stratagems, quite a big Mathhammer section, a bunch of synergies that I've come up with, and then a conclusion for overall. So the Lost, we can have one captain or 2 lieutenants. They can join the Death Company, similar to the chapter command upgrades in 9th edition. So captains for 20 points and lieutenants for 10 points. And what they get if they do this is they gain the Black Rage keyword. Obviously that gives them a 6+ Feel No Pain and 1 additional attack in close combat when they're charged or when they're heroically intervene. They cannot fall back and they cannot do actions. They do get access to 3 unique Death Visions, usable once per game. And the Captain's Rite of Battle, his reroll 1's aura, changes to Rites of Rage, which is a 6-inch Death Company core, reroll 1s on hits. And the Lieutenant's Tactical Precision becomes Tactical Aggression. Same sort of thing, 6 inches, Death Company, reroll 1 on wounds. And then some of the character options that instantly spring to mind for me, or these are most of the character options actually. You can have a regular captain with a jump pack, you could have a captain on a bike, Terminator captain, Gravis captain, Primaris captain, and then for the lieutenants you could have obviously like the Indomitus lieutenant, a regular lieutenant and a jump pack if you wanted, or like the Phobos or the Reaver lieutenant. And remember that you can take 2 lieutenants and it only uses 1 HQ slot. So I guess if you wanted a captain and 2 Death Company lieutenants, you still have room for 1 other HQ. So the Death Visions, these are really interesting. So you get 3 unique visions and they're usable only once each game. And you basically use it when the model is selected to fight, but there is a 1 CP stratagem called Vision of Sanguinius, and that lets you use a second Death Vision this turn. So enemy infantry character or monster need to be visible for the first Death Vision, and that's called On a Bridge of Vengeful Spirits, and lets you reroll all your hits, and you get +1 attack for every 5 units within 6 inches. The second and third Death Vision are enemy characters or monsters must be in engagement range, and that is Grace of the Angels, which gives that character a 3+ invulnerable save till the end of the turn, or it's to slay a War Master, and both players roll off. Remember, in a roll off you both roll a d6. If it is a tie you roll again, so this is really like a 50-50 chance, and if you win, rather than doing any attacks this fight, you just deal d3 + 3 mortal wounds to the enemy. Now, if you have your character with a really powerful weapon, that doesn't sound that appealing, but maybe if you have a cheap Death Company lieutenant or something, and he's up against somebody that you normally wouldn't be able to do anything against, you have the potential to just dish out 6 mortal wounds. And yeah, you can use each of these once per battle. So this is really interesting. And you can use all 3 on one character, or you can use them around the board of your Death Company characters. So I started looking at some characters that I thought might be interesting, and obviously jump captains are like super key or super core for Blood Angels. So they are 85 points, and then the jump pack is 20, and then it would be another 20 to join the Lost, to get that Black Rage, to get that 1 more additional attacks on charging. You cannot join the Death Company if you're a Warlord, but you can be Hero of the Chapter. So one of the options would be to take Imperium Sword, which obviously lets you reroll charges, +1 attack on charge, +1 strength, and then take like a Master Crafted weapon. So you could take your good old Thunderhammer, which is -1 to hit, but it would be 4 damage. You can also take your Storm Shield to get your +1 to save. So for 160 points, you have 5 attacks on the charge, 6 attacks from Savage Echoes, 7 attacks from Imperium Sword, 8 attacks from the Black Rage, and then his strength would be 9 at this point, and he would be hitting on 3s. And remember, once per game you could do the Death Vision to reroll everything. So even though you only hit on 3s 1 turn, maybe first turn, because that's possibly your most impactful turn, or the turn that you think you're going to make the most impact, you just reroll everything on that 4 damage Thunderhammer. So in some ways that almost brings back the old Smash Captain. You can also take the Relic Blade, which would be 3 damage if you Master Crafted it, and it would be strength 8 and it hitting on 2s, and it would be 10 points cheaper. Or you could keep your Thunderhammer and drop the Storm Shield and just take up an Infernal Pistol, because everybody knows, if you watch the channel, that I love Infernal Pistols. They're just so good at dishing out a little bit more damage. Next would be the Captain on a Bike, And I think the thing to say about the captain on a bike is the toughness 5 makes a huge difference here. You wouldn't think it, but he's actually cheaper points than the jump guy, because the jump guy is like 100 and, let me get this right, 85 plus. So the jump guy is 110 plus 20, whereas the captain on the bike is just 100 plus 20, so he's 10 points cheaper. The other option, I mean, you could take Imperium Swordom again. I was looking at Gift of Foresight, which is one of the new Blood Angels Warlord traits, and it's reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, 1 save every turn. Obviously the option again would be take your Mastercrafted Thunderhammer, or take the Hammer of Baal, which is a strength 8 minus 3 3 damage Thunderhammer that doesn't have the -1 to hit. And then again, you could drop your Storm Shield for the Infernal Pistol. We're gonna math hammer all of this against tons of different units. So don't worry if you're not sure what to pick now. It's definitely coming up in, I think it's like the 8th section of this video. So I actually made a video about the Primaris Lieutenant before. I'll put it up in the corner up there. And yeah, I think he's generally very good. And obviously the Black Rage gives him the 6+ Feel No Pain. He's only 75 points, 15 if you want to put him... the Storm Shield and the Volkite Pistol, and the Mastercrafted Power Sword, the one from Indomitus. And yeah, I mean, it's 7 attacks on the charge, strength 5, 2 damage, and he's hitting on 2s. And then obviously, there's some other options for lieutenants, I guess. Like, we finally have the ability, I suppose, where you could, like, Death from Above, a lieutenant, if you wanted one of them to join your death company. So we never really had this before, but I mean, I guess with a core keyword now, you could bring a lieutenant and a captain to reroll 1s and hits, and because the Phobos captain can Death from Above, then he could join the Death Company in deep striking. And I guess you could take the Reavers if you wanted some sort of Terra aura. I mean, Death Company are very good at deleting infantry, right? So if you took a Reaver lieutenant to do that -2 to leadership, you would probably get infantry to fail. But apart from that, these Reavers and Phobos, they're not really built for close combat. But I mean, it is an option, and I've put the points cost down in the corner. So then let's look at the 2 main Death Company troop choices then. So you've obviously got the Death Company Marines, 22 points per model, 3 for the jump pack, so they come in at like 25 points per model, Bolter and Chainsword, 250 points for 10 man, and then notable weapons, I suppose, are the Thunderhammers and the Power Fist, 15 points and 10 points. And these guys have 2 attacks and 2 wounds now. Generally very decent. And then you have the Death Company Intercessors coming in basically 2 points more expensive, and that translates to they have 1 more attack. They can obviously run those auto bolt rifles, which people are very fond of, or heavy bolt pistols and chainswords. I mean, and then a 5-man squad is coming in at 120 points, and they can take Thunderhammers and Power Fists. The Thunderhammer is 5 points more expensive here. I guess because you have that 1 extra attack, they deem it that needs to be 5 points more expensive. I'm not sure. I mean, the great thing about the regular Death Company Marines is there's loads of weapon options. The Death Company Intercessors, you're like super restricted with what you can do, and we're going to compare that in a minute or two. So stratagems that we can use with the Death Company then. Descent of the Angels, which is ignore charge modifiers, +1 to hit and shooting. +1 to hit in shooting and close combat, and this synergizes really well with a character dropping in as well, in that the +1 to hit for all those Death Company troopers, if they reroll 1s with a captain, then you're pretty much almost like really... You're probably at like a 95% chance to hit. The Death Company can obviously refusal to die, and it's 5+ Feel No Pain till the end of the phase. I mean, with the standard of sacrifice being gone, this is our one way to really shrug on 5s. And it's 1 CP for a squad of less than 5, I guess, or a character, and 2 CP for more than 5. Remember, the maximum squad size we can take at the moment with Death Company is 10. Angel Sacrifice. So models with engagement range must attack this character. So we could use this on our Death Company character who's going through Death Visions. So he would Death Visions, and then he would take that Grace of an Angel, so it's a 3+ save, and then you could force all enemies with engagement range they must declare their attacks against that character. So this could be very good against like a large demon or some sort of monster that has now been forced to attack your Death Company character, where obviously you might have a really strong unit in combat with them and they just have to completely ignore it. Red Rampage is I feel like it's a turn 3 power spike. So in the Assault Doctrine, your whole army, 6s improve AP by 1. So I guess Chainswords in turn 3 with 6s would be hitting at -3. You could definitely use that to your advantage. Upon Wings of Fire, deploy at the start of your next turn. So basically you lift up a unit off the battlefield in your movement phase, put them down somewhere else at the beginning of your next reinforcements phase. So it's a way to, I guess, relocate, move across the battlefield, but you don't do it in the same turn like you did in 8th edition. And then finally, Forlorn Fury. Rules as written at the moment is, it is a pre-game move for Death Company of up to 12 inches with a normal move. You must stay 9 away from your enemy. However, currently, this can be used multiple times on characters or squads, and it can also be used multiple times on the same character or squad. It's not used within a phase currently, and it's used before the battle begins. Or sorry, I think it's used before the first turn begins. I think that was the wording on it. It's very... I feel like it's going to be FAQ'd, but at the moment, for 1 CP, again, less than 5, 2 CP, more than 5, you could move a squad multiple times up to 12 inches. So if there's a jetpack or a Death Company character on a bike, they can move 12. If it's a Death Company Intercessor, it's just the regular move, so they can move 6. But I feel like this will be very hard for enemies to counter right now if this stays as is worded. Okay, and then what I've done is I've grabbed these captains that we looked at before. So basically just this is your standard captain now. Both the captain on the bike and the captain with the jump pack have the same number of attacks. So what I've done is I've tried all the different weapon options, and I've tried 2 of the key warlord traits that really let us buffer damage, which are the Imperium Sword and the Gift of Foresight. Sorry, I've got 2 slides here. Bearing in mind that Gift of Foresight also lets you reroll 1 armor save per turn. So I think that could be actually pretty useful, and especially if you're going to play that Death Vision for the 3-up save. Remember, if Gift of Foresight lets you reroll 1 save, you could also command reroll 1 save as well. So being able to reroll 2 3+ saves against, I don't know, some sort of like large plague weapon or something, you know, Power Fist, Thunderhammer, you're going to be able to make this captain quite a bit more survivable with the Gift of the Foresight trait. However, I wanted to compare it all, and I think the thing that really shook me is green is obviously the number 1 in each column, yellow is second, and purple is third. The thing that surprised me is, like, I guess the main thing to note is the damage done, right? If you talk about like wounding, I think I want to focus on damage here, and the Gift of Foresight plus Mastercrafted Thunderhammer, so that's just the Thunderhammer still with a -1 to hit. You're just basically giving that Thunderhammer 4 damage. Against Toughness 4, Toughness 7, you're able to do 18 damage, so I guess that's pretty strong. And Imperium Sword just comes out on top against Toughness 8, I guess because you get the Strength 9 sword. But it's only 1 point of damage, and like I said, Gift of Foresight would give you that reroll a save every turn, so 1 point of damage versus a reroll save every turn, I feel like I prefer Gift of Foresight. And then what's sort of also pretty interesting is this is the attacks excluding Savage Echoes, right? So then I've done it as well, including Savage Echoes, and including Savage Echoes, the numbers stay fairly similar. Your Mastercrafted Thunderhammer plus your gift is coming out very high, you know, like 20 damage against these, and 16 damage against Toughness 8 on average is still pretty boss, right? We'll actually see how this stacks up against some armor in a couple of slides' time. And then I think the one to note as well is down at the very bottom here, I just did the Gift of Foresight plus a regular Thunderhammer. And the reason that I did this was because I thought about what if we give this guy a second, what if we use his relic to be a defensive relic, for example, like Armor Indomitus or something that just makes him like, you know, Armor Indomitus gives you that 3-up save for a single phase. So with your Death Visions, essentially you would have 2 castable 3-up saves The Death Vision one can only be used in the fight phase, but the Arma Indomus one could be used in shooting. So this one down the bottom is so that later we can decide, do we want him to still do some damage, but do we also want him to be quite survivable? Because I guess the chance of the captain jumping off and just killing things has weakened significantly since they changed Honor of the Chapter, right? You always, in 8th edition, you could always use Honor of the Chapter. You could use it on characters like Mephiston. You could use it on your Smash Captain. You get to do all their attacks again with whatever buffs they had that turn, and it was obviously really powerful, but since that is gone, I feel like these captains are going to be much more likely to be with a squad, buffing the squad and working together. So keeping him alive so that the squad can stay alive and get as many buffs as possible is also an interesting option. So we looked at all the melee damage for the captain. Then let's look at the melee damage for the lieutenant. So the lieutenant's obviously coming in a lot less, and I did try the same Imperium Sword and the same Gift of Foresight on the lieutenant. But I think the things to say about the lieutenant is this is excluding Savage Echoes. I guess we didn't do including Savage Echoes for the lieutenant, but I guess that's fine. What's interesting though is like the damage numbers are they're like a third, right? So like this was 20 for the captain, this was 20, and this was like 15, right? So even if we put on like the Gift of Foresight down here, you're still getting almost double the damage out of like the captain. He's only like 30 or 40 points more, and when we're looking at this, I'm only ever looking at their melee weapons, right? If the captain, for example, like we talked about having an Infernal Pistol, then I've not factored that in yet, but we will have that factored in a little bit later. So I think the thing that I learned from doing this is like, I think your Warlord traits are never going to be worth using on the Lieutenant, but I think a Lieutenant with the Power Sword is probably able to, he's able to do a bit of damage, and he's probably decently survivable with his 2+, 4++, 6 triple plus, right? And then we went on to have a look at the captain survivability, and the blue one is the one that I added afterwards, like I said. So if we didn't focus, if we did just take like, what was it, Gift of Foresight and Mastercrafted Thunderhammer, so we're just going out for doing like a ton of damage. So how does the jump pack, the guy on the shield do? Well, the guy on the shield, sorry, the jump pack captain with the storm shield, he does okay, but he's not overly survivable in any way, shape or form. He can get taken down. Like if you had like a squad of intercessors rapid fire him, that would take away half his health. He can survive a few power fists and maybe like a couple of plasma shots, but he's going to get brought down pretty quickly. The jump captain without the storm shield, the storm shield protects him against small arms fire. In the last edition, like this would be quite often how a captain would die, would be like a lot of small arms fire, right? Because it would just be, you'd need to be making 3-ups with the invulnerable save. So yeah, and bear in mind here that when we talked about it, the bike captain was actually 10 points cheaper. So if we take the bike captain who's 10 points cheaper, he does have 1 additional toughness and 1 additional wound. And I think, that really shows here in that against small arms fire, like, he's way better. No real difference against the Flamestorm because I guess everything gets pushed onto the 4+ save. Same with Power Fists, he is a little bit more survivable just because of that extra toughness and wound. And then against Plasmas, I guess that's like 25% more survivable. And the thing that when I was doing this, like I was originally going to build the bike captain with a storm shield, right? When I was doing it, I sort of came to the conclusion that like, wow, okay, the storm shield only really helps me against small arms fire. And it's, I guess it's a bit, but like, are people really using small arms fire on this guy? Probably not, right? And he's still more survivable than a jump captain with a storm shield. So when I saw this, I thought like, this is how, if you think about the Smash captain that we talked about a couple of weeks ago on this channel, he is on a 3+, 4++, and then I guess you can give him some sort of like second relic if you want, like, or you can take Litany of Faith. So I think like that captain is generally very survivable, I find, or the chaplain, sorry, on the bike. So having this bike captain without the Storm Shield, I think, is my preferred option. It's cheaper, and you can take an Infernal Pistol, and the Infernal Pistol actually costs no points the way it's worded at the moment in the Codex. If you've got the app as well, it shows 0 points. So grab that Infernal Pistol and take the Bike Captain 3+, 4+, 6 triple plus. What I did also do was add the Bike Captain with Armor Indomitus, which gives you that 2+, and the 1 additional wound from the Armor Indomitus. And again, I guess that 1 additional wound does factor in as you move down. And I guess the other thing to say is you could also take the Storm Shield with the Armor Indomitus if you wanted to give him a 1-up save, and then that would give you a little bit more protection against like AP2 weapons. But I also put a note here, if we are picking Gift of Foresight, then you reroll 1 save per turn, and like I said before, you could CP another save. So I think this captain with the Gift of Foresight, he's essentially the only difference between him and the Primaris chaplain on a bike is 1 less wound but 6+ feel no pain, and when you average those things out, it's about the same. The difference is this guy obviously gets to reroll 1 save per turn, and when you're on a 4-up invulnerable save, that's pretty decent. So the Storm Shield on the bike just as a tiny benefit, and yeah, I mean, I guess the other option is you could take a combi weapon if you wanted a little bit more range, but I like getting the guy into close combat, and I also like to be able to shoot my pistol in close combat. So I'm thinking Infernal Pistol, Bike, Captain, and then Gift of Foresight. We also did a little bit of Mathhammer on the survivability of the lieutenants, and I guess the Reavers and the Phobos lieutenant, it's no surprise they are fairly unsurvivable against any high AP weapons as they have no invulnerable save. But your Primaris lieutenant with that Storm Shield, I mean, he's almost as tanky as those captains, right? Bit cheaper in points, bit less damage, but he has a role in the battlefield, I think, for sure. Sometimes you don't have enough points to captain, maybe you want this lieutenant, and yeah, I mean, he will still buff Death Company units. So moving on, so now we talk a little bit about synergies. So if we're talking about synergies, then the one that I want to look at first is the captain on the bike with a Thunderhammer, with the Infernal Pistol, with the Gift of Foresight, and with that Master-crafted weapon. So the Master-crafted weapon is obviously the Thunderhammer, so it's a 4 damage Thunderhammer. So we're looking at 140 points for him. Then we're looking at 10 Death Company Marines, 6 with Bolter and Pistols and Chainswords, 2 with Infernal Pistols and Chainswords, and 2 with Thunderhammers. This comes in 290 points. So Forlorn Fury, it'd be 1 CP for the captain, it'd be 2 CP for the Death Company, and that would allow them a 12-inch pre-game move, thus providing like a 36-inch threat range in turn 1, right? Because you would move forward 12, then it's your turn, you would jump forward 12, then you could potentially charge 12. However, as it's worded, this actually could be used twice. It's a lot of CP to consider 6 CP, but it would let you do a 24-inch pre-game move. Bearing in mind you still need to finish more than 9 away from the enemy, but if you get first turn, you could move basically so you'd be almost on top of them, 9 inches away, and then you're guaranteeing charges, you're guaranteeing those Infernal Pistols are in at half range, and yeah, if you're in turn 1, you could possibly eliminate any target you like. So now we're going to look at if we could eliminate targets, and remember this squad would be 430 points. So this uses everything that we've looked at so far, and again, I'm assuming this is turn 1, so we're going to exclude any Savage Echoes buffs or magic like that. So we are not using Savage Echoes for this. So your captain on the bike with the Mastercrafted Thunderhammer, 6 attacks, and when we look that down there, we looked at that before, that gives him the potential to do like 18 damage and even 14 damage against toughness 8. You have your 8 Death Company with your Chainswords, so they could do between 20 and 10 damage. You have your 2 Death Company and Thunderhammers, they can do like another 10 damage. You have 3 Infernal Pistols, which have averaged at 3.5 damage, so I've actually ignored the +2 they get for being within half range. I mean, half range is only 3 inches, so it's very small, so I've just ignored that. So a bit more damage, and then obviously that leaves, there's 6 Bolt Pistols still in that squad, so we fired them as well. The guys with Thunderhammers don't have any weapons. So I've worked all of that out. So in the next slide, we're going to check some key enemy units against this. So I've looked at like 2 Wound Infantry, a character this would be the toughness. So a character with toughness 4, 3+4++ save. I've looked at a monster with toughness 7, 2+4++ save, and we've looked at some armor, something like a Land Raider with toughness 8, 3+, or that new Gladiator tank that just came in the other day. So I've actually worked out how many fails on average they would get. The way I've done that is by looking at like, so this bike captain, for example, would have hit this toughness 4.52 times, and then I've inverted the save, and I've worked out that that means you would actually fail 2.98 times. So I've actually worked out how much damage each weapon will do against these profiles. Assuming that you use everything on the same sort. I mean, if you want to take this took me ages to do, so if you want to go further, then you can go further with it. But if we're just going to smash that 430 point Death Company squad into 2 wound infantry, you'd be looking at about 36 damage. If we smash it into a character with a 4+ invulnerable save, you'd be looking at like 29 damage, so that's pretty much deleting any character. I don't know any that's got more than 29 wounds. If you smash it into a monster that's like toughness 7, 2+4++ save, it's still 22.86 damage. That is killing things like, like that's turn 1. And remember, because you would have charged in turn 1, you get to fight first in the opponent's phase. Obviously, like you lose a few attacks and stuff because you haven't charged, etc. in the opponent's phase. But you're like, if you jump in and do 22.86 damage against like a monster, surely that monster's got to fall back. He can't afford to stay in combat with you and fight you again, or he's going to die for sure if that hasn't killed him. And then against armor, so if we did jump in against, I don't know, like a Land Raider or like some sort of I guess like those new Gladiator tanks, you'd actually be able to kill 2 of those Gladiator tanks and have some wounds left over. Or I think a Land Raider is 16 and a Gladiator tank is 12, right? So you could almost kill 2 of them. You'd have to split your fire very efficiently, but I mean, you've got the math table in front of you, so I guess you could review it and you could decide where to split fire, but it would be totally possible. So this would be the actual damage done against targets in turn 1 by this 10 man and captain jumping forward. Now I think this is quite decent, and I mean, I'm highly tempted to use this honestly in my next battle. And remembering death visions could be used to give the captain a few bonus attacks. Remember it was like +1 attacks for every 6, or sorry, +1 attacks for every 5 enemies within 6. You could use that. You could also pay the 1 CP to use a second death vision where you could reroll everything with that captain to just get a few more hits out in turn 1. That would definitely be possible. I guess a well-positioned librarian may be able to unleash rage on the Death Company. Now we've got wings back, the librarian could move forward, he could jump his 12, he'd probably be within range to cast Unleash Rage. I need to double check the range on Unleash Rage. But remember, I have the stream coming up on Saturday talking about all the new book stuff, so we can look at that then. And then I guess Hammer of Wrath could also be used. When you charge in, you do have a 10-man Death Company squad. Hammer of Wrath is 1 CP, and if you outroll the opponent's toughness, then you do 1 mortal wound. So you could definitely do some mortal wounds as well against anything that's under toughness 6. So pretty cool squad and pretty cool damage values. I was surprised at how high some of these actually could be. I think this one with the monster is actually surprising. Like I know that right now I think Mortarion is changing, but I know Mortarion was a 2+4+ and he is toughness 7. He does have a feel no pain save, but I mean, you'd be able to jump in and almost take him out in the first turn, and he would have to fall back, because if he didn't fall back, you would finish him in your phase. So that's really interesting, just how, especially getting up and causing that much havoc inside your opponent's front lines in the first turn of the game would really give your other close combat squads, like your Sanguinary Guard, like your Vanguard Veterans, it would almost give them free reign of the board and let them really just get unhindered across the board, because the opponent's going to have to react to this Death Company in a big way, I think, if they come in with this much damage. Right, so then synergy number 2, and I think I've been wanting to run this for a while because I have always I painted one of my Impulsors Death Company, and I was thinking how cool would it be to have 5 Death Company Intercessors. And basically, like, our Primaris Lieutenant would join the Death Company so that he can buff these Intercessors, right? I mean, I know you can take, like, Blade Guards, but I think the Death Company Intercessors... I mean, Games Workshop are definitely pushing the Death Company Intercessors with their new box, so I thought, like, let's have a look at them and see if they are worth taking. So, 240 points for this, but these guys work very well on an Impulsor, which is 110 points, so we have to consider that. And I think what I would probably take on this Lieutenant, which is quite a cool one, is the Visage of Death. And what that does is it basically removes objectives secured from the enemy. So if these guys in their Impulsor move forward to an objective and you pile out, you'd be able to remove the OBSEC and basically capture the objective with the Death Company. But it would be 350 points with the transport. I also had a little bit of trouble figuring out exactly what gun the Thunderhammer guy carries. The Death Company Intercessor's rules are like super complicated, so I ignored it for the next table on the slide. I mean, I guess he could have thrown a crack grenade or something like that, but yeah, so we take the Primaris Lieutenant and we add 5 Death Company Intercessors, and again, we work out all the damage against all the different toughnesses, and we use all the weapons. So we use the Lieutenant's Mastercrafted Sword, the Chain Swords, we put a Thunderhammer on, and we use the Neo Volkite pistol the Lieutenant has, and then we use the 4 bolt pistols that the squad does. And then we threw it against the exact same enemies that we had, that the captain and the big squad threw against. Let me just double check. Yeah, we excluded Savage Echoes, so I guess you have to consider there might be a small buff for Savage Echoes for this. This took, yeah, I mean, there's no way I would have had time to do that. It took me about 5 hours to make this. Okay, so we worked out the damage taken by the different unit types from your smaller squad size, and then basically I compared it down here. So like the 2 wood infantry, the Lieutenant and his 5 guys did 15.9, and the big squad, the captain and the 10 guys did 36. So these guys against the infantry did 43%. So if we compare point for point, these guys were 58% of the points cost. So any number that's less than 58, which they all are, basically means that these guys were not as valuable point for point as the Death Company and the Captain. I guess against characters, they're close. Against monsters, armor, and infantry, they're actually like, I guess like equivalently about 20% less. So this actually surprised me, especially when these guys need like an Impulsor to get into the battle as well. And if you compare the Impulsor point for point, it's around 25% of the cost of this squad as well. So if you add those both together, you're looking at like 83% of the cost of these, and they're only doing so half that damage. I mean, there is a couple of stratagems that you can play on these guys, like Gene Rot Might, and then like Transhuman, but I'm really not seeing as much value in the Death Company Intercessors as the regular Death Company. I guess just due to the fact that the weapon options are a bit more flexible, and that one extra attack that the Intercessors get doesn't really seem to add as much value as you might think. I did do a video like 2 months ago, I think it was just before the 9th edition Codex dropped, or the supplement dropped, looking at like Death Company Intercessors, Vanguard Veterans, and Sanguinary Guard, and the conclusion in that video as well was the Death Company Intercessors fell short. And it seems to me once again that even with the new rules, these guys fall short of your original Death Company, Captain, and the vanilla Death Company. So I guess in summary, I kind of think the new Death Company rules are great. For years I've wanted to put Primaris into the Death Company, and I guess this finally allows it. However, it's funny that both the captains that fit best are the old variety, right? It's still the Jump Pack Captain. Potentially the Bite Captain's kind of come out, it's come more into the meta, that Toughness 5 just giving him a little bit more survivability. And I did have to double check Forlorn Fury, because I was convinced that Forlorn Fury was going to only let Jump Captains move before the game. But no, it does say just Death Company, so the guy on the bike is totally valid. So I think the large 10-man squad with the captain could be very strong, and I guess if they complete their mission, and I guess what I mean by that is if they jump in and they take out a high value target and they're left in a poor situation, you could always, upon Wings of Fire, the 10-man Death Company, lift them off the board in turn 2 with a view to deep striking again in turn 3. So I guess depending on how much pre-game move you need to do, you might not have too many CP left, but if it's the difference between the 10-man Death Company coming back at 6 or 7 of them and being able to take a quadrant for all fronts or something, it could be totally valuable. The vanilla Death Company are still stronger just due to the more weapon options, the jump packs, the +1 attack on the intercessors have over them in practice. It doesn't really translate. It definitely doesn't translate to damage. I mean, go back, pause the video, look at the numbers. It just doesn't. It's just not there. And with the regular Death Company now at 2 wounds and only 1 point more for the fly, and I guess just -1 less attack, these really are my preferred choice. I don't think I have 20 assault intercessors that I was thinking of converting into Death Company. I probably will, but there's no rush on that. Like the old Death Company just perform better. Death Visions does sound super fun, and it fits well within our lore. And I guess they probably make up for the negatives provided by the Black Rage, right? In the Black Rage, you can do no actions and you can't fall back. And the 3 Death Visions obviously give you the ability for extra attacks, that roll off for the 50-50 chance to do a bunch of mortal wounds, and then that 3+ save. And I guess if you weren't going to use either of the synergies that I thought about, some of the other synergies that I thought might be interesting was you could use the Terax Drill in Tycho in like a 10-man squad, because the Terax Drill carries 12. So you could use like a 10-man regular squad without jump packs. That would be 30 points less, and you might be able to take another couple of Thunderhammers for those 30 points and deliver those guys right where you want them with your drill. And yeah, I actually don't see any reason to pick Death Company Intercessors over Assault Intercessors though, just due to Honour the Chapter, right? So the Assault Intercessors don't have any of the negatives from the Black Rage. It's arguable if the 6+ Feel No Pain is going to make a huge difference. And then I guess, although you are losing a couple of attacks, the Assault Intercessors for 2 CP can completely attack the whole squadron again. If you charge in Savage Echoes, that can be a disgusting amount of a second, basically a complete second fight phase. So, if I had to choose what I was going to have in my Impulsor, would the Lieutenant and a squad of Assault Intercessors be just as good option as the Death Company Intercessors? I kind of think so, and I think I'd rather use those troops because they're very effective troops for Blood Angels. Obviously with the fight twice, they're probably the troops that we have that can do the most damage, and then use the vanilla Death Company. So I'm definitely going to look at running this captain in this Death Company in a future battle, and we'll probably Forlong Fury them a couple of times before the battle starts, really just to see if they can do on the board exactly what it says they've done on paper. Hopefully it'll surprise some folk, so definitely keep an eye on the channel, and I'll let you know in the Facebook group as soon as that's available, and you can join that just by clicking the link in the video description below. So thanks for tuning into the weekly tactics video. If you got any value out of the video, I'd appreciate it if you like, or if you want to see more Blood Angels content every week, you should definitely consider subscribing. Leave me a comment down below on any of the other Death Company options that I maybe missed, or let me know exactly how you plan on running the Death Company in 9th edition. Just quick reminder, this weekend we got 2 live streams coming up, one looking at the new Codex Supplement on Saturday, and then Army List reviews as always on Sunday. It's going to be pretty exciting seeing all the new Army Lists over the next few weeks, so I hope to catch you in some of those. Until next time, by the blood are we made. Peace.